Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real United States video blog. I'm your host Paul Campbell, and behind the camera as always is our camera operator and my wife Beverly Campbell. We're here in Paris, but not the Paris you may think of when you hear that name. We're actually in Paris, Michigan. It's a small town just north of where we live, and like so many towns in the United States, named after other towns of much more fame. The reason we're here today is because we're going to try and catch some action of snowmobiles. There's been a lot of fresh snow. We've had a winter with a great deal of light powdery snow, and so those who participate in snowmobiling as a sport are out in force, and we're hoping to share that with you. I personally never saw a snowmobile prior to about the mid to late 1960s. I don't know exactly when they came into existence or when they became real popular, but that was my first experience with them. They've grown in popularity over the years, and even with the increase in gasoline prices, they remain very popular here in the United States as a recreational sport. Now, I think that a lot of people think of snowmobiles also as being a tool used in northern climates for transportation in general, but certainly here in the United States, we use them a lot as a recreational vehicle, strictly as a sport. And what we're standing on right now is the White Pine State Park Trail. The White Pine State Park Trail is a abandoned or disused railway line where the rails and ties and all the gravel and everything has been torn out, and it's been paved to use as a recreational vehicle track. Now, we've got some sleds coming up the trail right now. Bev's going to pan around there and get a look at them. You can see the headlights in the distance. Quite a beautiful scene here with the trees surrounding the trail, and we've got a whole passel of snowmobilers coming up the road, and they're probably wondering what I'm doing standing here and Bev with the camera. This particular trail is actually quite long. I'm not certain of the length. I'll try and look it up and put it in the description below, but you're going to see that this trail is probably in excess of 100 miles long. And there are hundreds and hundreds of miles of these public access trails all across the state of Michigan and many other states here in the United States, but I know in Michigan we have hundreds of miles of them that are been paved and designated strictly for recreational vehicle use. And it looks like our sledders are wondering why we're standing here with this camera. They may not know that it's a camera and seem reluctant to come up the trail. But we'll get some footage of some sleds here along by and by for you. One of the things you'll notice here in the background is that there's a stop sign at every cross intersection. Regular traffic has the right of way, and the sportsmen who are riding snowmobiles obviously have to yield to that right of way. So in towns like this, here in Paris, there's a stop sign at every intersection, and it's fairly dangerous if you don't stop because the cross traffic is not going to stop. So in much the same way that you have traffic signs for the regular vehicular traffic, the trails also carry stop signs, warning signs of various types, regulatory signs. And so you have to be very mindful of these so you don't get hit by oncoming traffic. Now we've got another sled off in the distance here coming down from the north. He's coming south towards us. Looks to be alone. And hopefully we can get some footage of that. You can see that the snow pile is actually taller than poor little Beverly here. That's how much snow we've had this season. So we finally have some snowmobiles coming up the White Pine State Park Trail that we're going to show you here. And I'm kind of standing on the edge of a relatively busy road. And the passersby are eager to actually be on camera. So here we've got some sleds coming up the road, brightly colored in this particular case. And these are both pretty new vehicles, and this is not an inexpensive piece of equipment, so people who can afford to actually do this as a sport are doing reasonably well in life. This actually becomes a very busy intersection between vehicular traffic going both ways and snowmobile traffic going north and south. It's a very busy and therefore relatively dangerous intersection if you're not being careful about what you're doing. Most vehicular traffic knows that there's a path here if they're local, and they are rather cautious to slow down for this because the roads are slippery, and if they had to stop at the last moment, it would be very difficult to do. A lot of snowmobilers like to ride in clubs. Sometimes families ride together, but there are a lot of clubs that run together. So you'll see them come across in large groups. And Skidoo, Formula SL Skidoo, Polaris, Yamaha, another Polaris, really nice sled here. This is a Polaris XC, it's just a really nice machine. And another Skidoo. Sometimes Skidoo is pronounced Skidoo. I choose to pronounce it as Skidoo. Here's another one. How you doing? You notice folks all in a very good mood. It's a Saturday here around midday, just afternoon, and all very eager to wave to the camera and keep on going. They don't want to cut into their Saturday, but they're all being very friendly. Nobody's trying to avoid the camera or anything. So they're in good spirits. That's one thing about snowmobilers. They're generally very, very happy bunch. And why shouldn't they be? They're out enjoying what they do. It's a beautiful day, even though it's very snowy. And I'm trying to look over my shoulder so I don't get run over by one because they do want to get where they're going. But you'll notice that everybody's been very friendly, and that's really a nice thing. Although I'm surprised that nobody has actually stopped and asked us who we are, what we're doing, or where we're from. But I guess they just don't care. They're out having fun. Okay, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the sign here. We were talking about the stop signs and the regulatory signs along the trail. And you'll notice it says that wheeled motorized vehicles are prohibited. Just motorized wheeled vehicles. That includes ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, motorcycles, motorized, automobiles or trucks, those sorts of things. There's no hunting. The interesting thing is that there's no equestrian, no horse traffic allowed on this path. I thought that was rather interesting, but I suppose it's to protect the asphalt that they've used to pave this trail. The steel shoes that horses wear could damage that quite a bit. But obviously it's used for hiking, biking, jogging, dog walking, skiing, snowmobiling, and roller skating. So there are restrictions on what these paths can be used for. That's designated by state law, not by federal law. But these were put here essentially for snowmobilers. We have a very long winter season here. We're at 43 degrees north latitude, as I may have mentioned in previous episodes. And so we have quite a long winter. So snowmobiling is a sport that has a great following. A large number of people do it. And obviously the state felt that it was worthwhile to provide this public trail specifically for snowmobilers. We got a couple more sleds coming up the road here, or up the trail. And see, very friendly folks. There's a Yamaha and another Skidoo. People waiting diligently for traffic to clear. Very careful to obey the laws and the regulatory signs here along the trail. Just out having a good time. I'm not certain if wearing a helmet is necessarily a legal requirement for these, so if you post a comment, I can try and look it up, but I don't know if it's actually a legal requirement. On motorcycles, for example, it's a legal requirement unless you carry a certain level of insurance, in which case you are allowed to ride a motorcycle without a helmet, but I don't know that it's necessarily a requirement for a snowmobile. I suspect it may well be, although I don't know that I'd really want to be out here on a snowmobile without one, although I have, but it was decades ago, and it's pretty chilly without one. This looks sort of like a scene out of a polar expedition, doesn't it? But in fact, this is just a hobby or a sport for people to go out and have a good time. How you doing? So we'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Real United States video blog. We hope you've enjoyed this episode on snowmobiling here in the United States. We hope that you'll subscribe and join us for future episodes if you haven't already. If you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. We love hearing from all of you. We try to get back to everyone we can as soon as possible. If you like this video, hey, pick like, share it with your friends. Sharing really helps us out. And as always, thank you for watching.